Good morning. A man is in police custody after allegedly smashing windows at a courthouse in Sydney's West overnight. Hannah Sinclair is live for us at Parramatta Police Station. Hannah, good morning. What more do we know?
Good morning, Davina. Well, the man is being held here at Parramatta Police Station and is expected to be charged after undergoing a mental health assessment in hospital. Police were called to Parramatta Local Court about 7:15 last night after a man allegedly smashed several windows with a hammer. A tense standoff unfolded between officers and the man, and police had to draw tasers before he surrendered and lay on the ground. He was arrested and taken to hospital under police guard, where he was treated for cuts to his hands and head. Now, police say that the court has resumed operations today and that no hearings have been affected. Take a listen.
It's crazy, pretty much, yeah. Pretty crazy going on in Parramatta.
Should we have to foot the bill for this?
No, definitely not. He should.
It's shocking, really, like the amount of damage that has been done by this man in such a short amount of time. Certainly the risk that he posed to himself when you see some of that sheet glass falling, he's lucky to have escaped with the minor injuries that he has.
The incident is not being treated as a provoked attack, but instead a random act of violence. The damage is being assessed, but we understand that it may take several days for the doors of the court to be fixed. This morning there are extra officers in place while they deal with that damage. Davina.
Big clean up ahead. Hannah, thank you. Well, the pilot has somehow survived with only minor injuries after his helicopter spiralled out of control and crashed into New York's Hudson River. We'll go live to our US correspondent, Charles Croucher. Charles, good morning. This is one amazing great escape.
Just incredible, Davina, isn't it? Particularly when you see that plane come down into the Hudson River, that helicopter which was spiralling out of control. This vision caught by a passerby in New York, saw the helicopter go into the water, and from there, emergency services acted quickly. The pilot was the only person aboard. He got out of the fuselage and actually stood as it bobbed upside down in that murky water. He was rescued by a passing boat, and then the emergency services got the helicopter to shore where they tied it up. A dock worker has been injured in the process. The pilot hurt his hand, but given that vision, given that scenario, it really is a wonderful outcome. Here is how some of those passers-by described what they saw this morning.
We thought maybe it was like, a stunt or something, or just, planned or coordinated. And then next thing you know, it's out of sight, and, there was a splash and, sirens.
He was able to get out of his helicopter, stand on the pad. There was a passing boat that picked him up and brought him into the heliport.
It's been a little over a decade since a passenger plane went down in the Hudson. That spawned the story of Sully that became a motion picture. There, the passengers were rescued from the plane's wings. Sadly, last year, 5 people died in a nearby helicopter crash in New York's East River. So, given the circumstances, given what happened, a really miraculous survival today in New York. Davina.
It is extraordinary, Charles. Thank you. Well, new clues have been released in the investigation into a fatal shooting at a popular Melbourne park. As Stephanie Anderson explains, CCTV tracks the suspected killer as he walks more than 2.5 kilometres away from the scene of crime.
Well, homicide detectives have described the shooting murder of Daniel O'Shea as horrendous, and now they've released CCTV footage of a man they believe may be connected to it. Wearing a distinctive green baseball cap, dark clothing and carrying a Coles shopping bag, the man is tracked walking through South Yarra away from the scene for several kilometres on April 26.
Dark clothing, there's a hood with the green baseball cap. He's also carrying one of the red and white Coles recycle bags.
The 41-year-old victim was shot dead in Fawkner Park around 7:40 p.m. on that Friday night. It's believed he was in the area for a pre-arranged meeting, with detectives confirming he had strong connections to organised crime.
We know that he has a significant criminal past, which involves connections with some of the higher echelon of organised crime.
Joggers located Mr O'Shea's body in the park and alerted authorities. 2 guns connected to the crime were then found by children near a playground.
It was really disappointing and concerning that those guns were found not by us and by children, but my focus is on the evil individual who's dropped them near a kid's playground.
Police admit there's a chance the man in this footage is simply a member of the public, but they're confident if he's involved, someone out there has more information.
We're very fixed on solving this and we need the community to help us.
Anyone who spotted this man on April 26 or has any information about who he is being urged to contact Crime Stoppers immediately.
Police are investigating a robbery at a hardware store in Sydney's south after nearly $30,000 worth of stock was stolen. It's believed thieves broke into Total Tools at Auburn around 2 a.m. this morning, leaving massive damage to the front of the building. Well, this year's flu season is shaping up to be one of the worst in recent memory, with a number of cases and deaths already well beyond what we've seen in the past. Sophie Upcroft reports.
This flu spike really is unprecedented for Queensland, and authorities are warning that nobody can afford to be complacent. Of the 25 lives that have already been lost this year, it's been revealed that a number of those were people who were otherwise fit, young and healthy, and that some of those were aged in their 20s and in their 30s. We can also reveal this morning the hardest hit areas around the state. Coming out on top is southeast Queensland, where 14 lives have already been lost. This is closely followed by North Queensland. In order to protect yourself, the advice is to get vaccinated. Here is Queensland's Chief Health Officer.
It takes 2 weeks before you get immunity from the vaccination, and we're not yet into the flu season, but we expect that will shortly arrive. So it is really important that people get vaccinated now.
If you are currently experiencing flu symptoms, the advice is to consult your GP and to stay home from school or work in order to stop the spread.
There has been a dramatic late intervention into the federal election campaign from a Turnbull, not the former Prime Minister, who is out of the country, but his son, Alex. Jonathan Kersley reports.
2 days from the election and the Liberal leadership coup is still haunting the party. Malcolm Turnbull's son Alex has recorded a message in a bid to oust Health Minister Greg Hunt from his Victorian seat of Flinders and essentially try and get former Liberal turned independent Julia Banks elected. The call was made to 17,000 voters for activist group Get Up, which is also issuing how to vote cards, placing Julia Banks number 1. Alex Turnbull was highly critical of the Health Minister for his role in the removal of Malcolm Turnbull as Prime Minister, but he also attacked the Liberal Party's stance on tackling climate change.
Hi, it's Alex Turnbull here, Malcolm Turnbull's son. I'm calling you to let you know that this election you have a choice. You can vote for Peter Dutton's deputy, Greg Hunt, who was part of the coup that removed Malcolm and scrapped any chance of action on climate change. Or you can vote for someone who has integrity and is standing up for action on climate change. We don't need more people like Greg Hunt and Peter Dutton in power. We need more people who want action on climate change. This election, don't give the Libs your vote.
The former Prime Minister's son also recorded a robocall targeting voters in the Victorian seat of Menzies, which is held by Liberal Kevin Andrews. The intervention, another distraction for the Liberal Party, was welcome news for Labor leader Bill Shorten.
I'll just say one thing, there is a mood for change right across Australia.
This afternoon, Mr Shorten is giving a speech at the same venue where Gough Whitlam delivered his famous It's Time address ahead of the 1972 election.
And like Bill Shorten, the Prime Minister will also deliver his final major speech before the election today. Let's go live to our political reporter, Ellie Walsh in Canberra. Ellie, it'll be a big speech, but an early start for Scott Morrison today.
Yes, sure was, Davina. Scott Morrison hit the hustings in Sydney this morning. It was a sense of deja vu for many of the press pack because Scott Morrison donning the high vis at the Sydney markets, which is in fact the very place where many of us, myself included, started the campaign with Bill Shorten 36 days ago. It's there the PM met with workers. As you can see, the seat of Reid is currently held by outgoing Liberal MP Craig Laundy, but given his recent departure, Labor fancies their chances of snatching this seat as well. The Prime Minister has since travelled here to Canberra ahead of his National Press Club address. This will be his last major speech of the campaign, Davina, and he's expected to focus on the economic growth, on housing and on lower taxes. While Bill Shorten channels Gough Whitlam's It's Time speech, Scott Morrison will be sharpening his message that now is not the time. Almost 1/3 of eligible Australians have already cast their votes on paper. The race is tight. Have they done enough though? All will be revealed on Saturday.
We'll see the reaction this afternoon. Ellie, thank you. Well, the head of Victoria's Police Union has dismissed claims officers failed to identify themselves when they mistakenly arrested the wrong man on the weekend. Fitzroy resident Nick Dimopoulos' arm was broken in multiple places when he was set upon by police who'd been looking for a car thief.
We hear one side of the story and I think there's this trend at the moment to jump to the end and judge the police's actions because we hear a little bit from different sources, but we don't have the full picture. And I think that's what's happened here.
The victim remains in hospital with injuries so extensive he may never regain full use of his arm.